Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Monday, September 10th, 2018. I am Dave Biddle. Very happy to be joined by Bill, Bank, Greene. Bank, I just want to do a deep dive on the offensive line today. We were both concerned about the line coming into the season. They've looked great, but they've looked great against porous defensive lines. I actually thought Rutgers would be better than what they were this year. It's really disappointing. Chris Ash is in his third year. This is what his outfit looks like. I know he wasn't left with much, but still he's in his third year. But anyway, the O-line looks great, but it's just too early to tell, in my opinion. Just what's your take so far on the O-line?
Yeah, way too early to tell. What you see so far is really good. They're doing what they have to do. You can only play the people that are lined up in front of you. And, you know, they played Oregon State and Rutgers. 170 scholarship players, none of which Ohio State would want on their team. But, you know, we've seen supposed great teams so far this year struggle, you know, so you don't want to do that. And these guys have done what they're supposed to do, okay, and they've done it really well. If you want to look deep and be super critical, which is kind of what I like to do, you know, and I've done over the years.
Me too.
You see that you give up 2 sacks. There were some pressures. They ran the ball okay. I don't think they pounded it down Rutgers' throat. I mean, so you had 2 runs over 15 yards, and one was the Martell scamper that was, you know, that party was over at that point. So if you want to be super, super, super critical and look at that deep look that you want, you know, I didn't think they dominated. Now, you want to talk to Dwayne Haskins and those receivers? They dominated, you know. So, but in terms of O-line, 2 sacks, a couple pressures, didn't really crush it running the ball, but yet that's really being, you know, hypercritical.
The guy that I've been really impressed with, because I've been watching him closely, is Thayer Munford. It's not, and I got to say, it's cool seeing a number 75 out there. You know, big, almost as big as, he almost looks like Orlando Pace out there. Just playing, seeing number 75 out there playing left tackle for Ohio State. There's something right about that. And listen, I'm not saying the kid's Orlando Pace. He's not. Orlando came in and was a dominant player from the day he stepped foot on campus. And he didn't step foot on campus till August of 1994. It wasn't like he enrolled early. But Thayer Munford is really impressing me. And, again, we're not going to know. We're going to know a lot more this week when he has to face against a TCU defense that's going to mix things up, stunts, twists, everything, just a better defensive line. But what are your impressions so far on Thayer Munford?
Yeah, I couldn't be more impressed. And he's a kid that I met when he was coming out of the 8th grade. And he was such a nice kid. You just were kind of drawn to him. But he was probably, I mean, he was close to 400 pounds, and he was in no shape to play JV football. But he was so nice, and we saw him every year at camps, and then he started to play for LaSalle, and he was okay. You know, you thought, man, this kid might have a chance. And then, you know, came that move to Massillon with Nate Moore and his wife, and he got a lot of criticism for that, but, boy, that has made that kid, it made him socially, academically, football-wise, and to see where he is today after knowing where I met him when he was an 8th grader, it's a miracle. And I'm happy for the kid. He's a really, really nice kid. These are the guys you root for when you get to know them, and you can't help but root for this kid, you know. And I would have rooted for him if he would have went to Mount Union or Michigan or went to the Canadian League, whatever he wanted to do. I was going to root for this kid because he's had to overcome some obstacles in his life, and he's doing that. And we love these kind of success stories. And, you know, anytime you get a chance to read anything about Thayer and his background and stuff, man, read it. I mean, it's a great story. It's a real success story.
I know Patrick Murphy did a nice expose on him before he even arrived at Ohio State, just kind of detailing everything he went through. If people can Google search that, I'm sure if you just put into Google Bucknuts, Thayer Munford, Patrick Murphy, it'll pop right up. But One more thing on the O-line, then we'll move on. Demetrius Knox graded out horribly last year, according to Pro Football Focus. So I'm still concerned about him. Although, again, he's playing well so far, but I'm still concerned about Knox. Just anything else you want to add about the offensive line, specifically D. Knox, and then anything else you want to say?
No, I mean, I think they're doing what they're supposed to do, and that's good to see, because there are some teams that were highly rated this year that aren't doing what they're supposed to do, and then you've got super concerns, And so I guess you can look at it two ways. People say, well, they haven't played anyone. I would agree, they haven't. But the flip side is they're murdering those teams, and that is what you have to do. You take the dude that's lined up across from you every week, and you beat him, and that's what football's all about. Whether it's Oregon State or Alabama, you've got to do your job each week, and I think they're doing that. So, next week will be a great, that'll be a great show a week from today. That's going to tell you a lot more.
Yeah, just 5 days away, Jerry World. I can't wait. And we'll get into that in a little bit. You touched on Haskins and the wide receivers. I mean, my gosh, there's just not enough words we can say about these guys, not enough praise we can put on them. Just completely on point. It's just so refreshing to see a quarterback, and this is not a knock on, please don't take this as a knock on J.T. Barrett out there, Bucknutters. This is a knock on every quarterback since Troy Smith, if you want to look at it that way. It's just refreshing to see a Buckeye quarterback that can lead his receivers, put the ball in the money, make every throw on the field. Again, the competition is going to step up, and the receivers look great too. They're so deep, so veteran, so talented. I can't say enough about Haskins and the wideouts, Bill.
Yeah, no doubt. And, I've always been probably the hypercritical guy all my career, and Dwayne Haskins is a lot better football player than J.T. Barrett is, and that's just the way it is. There's a reason that one guy is struggling to make a practice roster. The other guy's going to be a high number one pick and be a starter in the NFL for 10 years. There's a reason. And that's why these receivers are better. The ball's coming out on time. The ball's coming out accurate. The ball's hitting them in the hands. It hasn't happened the past 3 or 4 years. So, of course, these guys are going to look better. They have a real quarterback throwing the ball, not a fullback throwing the ball. So, and you can credit Hartline, and I love Brian Hartline. I've known him since he was a freshman in high school, but to say he doesn't deserve the credit for these receivers. The credit goes to the fact that you have a real, live, honest-to-goodness passing attack right now with a real, live, honest-to-goodness quarterback playing the position. So, Haskins, to me, I was sold, 1,000% sold after the Michigan game. And I had no reservations, zero. I've written that ever since that they walked off the field that day. Now, there may be bumps in the road. Peyton Manning had nights where he threw 4 interceptions. Tom Brady's had bad games. But to me, Dwayne Haskins gives you a chance now against Alabama and Georgia and Oklahoma and schools like that, Clemson, where you didn't have that chance with J.T. Barrett. You weren't going to beat those teams. Unless those teams played really bad and it ended up being a 16-13 game, you could not beat those teams. Well, today, when you line up with that guy at quarterback, you can play with anyone.
Exactly right. The days of stacking the box against Ohio State are over. Or if teams do that, good luck, because you're going to be watching number 83 and number 14 and number 21 and number 11 and all these guys, number 1, all these guys running away from your DBs for touchdowns. It's just so much fun to watch Dwayne Haskins out there. What's not fun right now is watching the middle linebacker position. Baron Browning is not a middle linebacker in my opinion. Tough Borland is, but there's no way he's 100%. I doubt he's even close. And people are like, well, they should just put Justin Hilliard in. I mean, I understand what people are saying, but there's a reason he's third string. It's not because he's better than those guys. Talk me off the ledge here, Bank. Is there still hope for the middle linebacker position this year? What can be done?
No, there is. I mean, even when people, if you want to say, well, Justin Hilliard isn't real good, and Sept Borland's not healthy, and Baron Browning is not a natural. I mean, there are teams playing great defense that don't have 4- and 5-star guys. Okay, and these are elite athletes. Whether you don't like Baron Browning as a player, that's fine. He is an elite athlete. So, and then you look at that roster of linebackers, those guys were wanted by everybody in America, okay? And when you watch Kansas State, just to throw a team out there over the years, play defense, they don't have one guy that Ohio State would ever want. But they know how to run to the ball. They know they're always in the right spot. They're coached correctly, and they make plays, okay? It happens all the time in college. You do not need 5 stars to be able to play great defense. And they have 4- and 5-star guys. So coach them up, put them in the right spot, and let them go. I don't know. To say I'm not concerned would be wrong, but yet I'm not overly concerned. And I still think this is going to be a really good defense. I would be more concerned with the secondary, to be honest with you. But we don't know yet. You know, you're going to learn a lot this week. I think TCU is a pretty darn good football team. So I do think, you know, get off the ledge. Just, you know, calm down a little bit here. They're 2-0. They've murdered 2 teams. The defense, I knew they were going to be better last week. And that's why I wrote when I did my game thing that it could be a shutout. You know, they're definitely not getting over 10 on Ohio State. You knew they were going to get a lot of attention this week. So, you know, I'm not really all that worried. There's a lot of talent there. The linebacker coach needs to do his job, coach his unit up, and get him playing well.
And in this TCU game, I think this is going to be a good test. I mean, Gary Patterson coaches his guys up. He's a typical, you know, gets a bunch of 3-star guys and coaches them up. And they're going to look at this as their Super Bowl, of course, Bank. You're going to have College Game Day down there. They still feel slighted from the college football playoff 4 years ago, even though Ohio State won the title and proved they should have been in there, obviously. But you had the Little Sisters of the Poor comment from Gordon Gee. You know, they're going to be playing up everything they can, and they've got some talent on that team. Their quarterback, Robinson, you know, he's raw, but he can do some damage. I think this is going to be a good test this week for the Buckeyes. They're favored by 12.5. I think the Buckeyes are going to win, but just your thoughts on this game this week.
I want to dive into it a little bit more this week and look at more stuff on TCU. What I do know about them is I like the team they put out there. I think they have a team that can compete with Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State. You know, whether they're going to beat those teams, you know, I'm going to look a little bit more at them. But they're not Oregon State, and they're not Rutgers. And they do have Gary Patterson, who's a guy that I really respect a lot. And I think, you know, they had to have been looking at this game, you know, since it was scheduled. And I think he's spent a lot of time on this. I think it means a lot to them. And, you know, not that it doesn't mean a lot to Ohio State because this is a big game. But, you know, I'm intrigued by what TCU can do here. I don't think this is going to be a walkover 55-10 game. I don't think it's going to be that way. I think Gary Patterson will come up with something for Haskins. You know, I could almost see him playing them the way, you know, for people that are old like me, when Miami had that great powerhouse team back in the 80s, and they had Vinny Testaverde, and they went up against Penn State for the national title. And Joe Pa beat him 14-10. And what he did is he had his safeties play about 20 yards off the ball. He played his corners about 10 yards off the ball. And he let them Miami guys catch all those 8, 9, 10-yard passes that they wanted. He would come up and hit them. And his thought was to make them go 90 in 15 plays rather than have them go 80 yards in one play. And I think that's kind of how I would play Haskins, is try to make him beat you over the course of an 8 to 10 play drive and hope he makes a mistake. But I don't know. I want to see how TCU, I want to see more on them before I say too much about this game. But I think it's an intriguing game, and I'm looking forward to it.
I am too. It's nice to not have a cupcake this week, that's for sure. It's also nice when we have Bill Bank Greene on the show. I appreciate it, Bank. You always come strong. Thank you very much for your time. And thanks to all the listeners out there for tuning in to the show. I appreciate it. I hope you have a great day. Let's hear that Buckeye swag. Best damn band in the land.